peeps, how you feeling, how you living, what's good? It's your girl Francine. Today is Friday, which means it's Fact Friday. We get into the straight facts about what's really going on. Today, I want to talk about a subject matter that I think is very, very, very important right now, and that is protesting. It's been going on for the last month. I don't know where you've been at if you don't know. They're not really talking about it very much on the news anymore, but it is still going on. We still are fighting. We still are out there. And so I wanted to make a video kind of telling what your rights are as a protester. I think a lot of people don't really understand how the First Amendment protects people, what it protects you for, what you can and can't do. And then, unfortunately, you have situations. Where are you going? Okay. Anyway, I don't know if you can hear that, but somebody, I don't know what that noise was. But anyway, what you can and can't do, what, happens if you do either get arrested or if the police uses force. What kind of force can they use, and when is it okay for them to arrest you? So let's get into it so that we can learn our rights. I'm gonna label this "Know Your Rights" because I think everyone should know their rights of what they can and can't do when it comes to something that is protected under the First Amendment. So let's do it. So under the First Amendment, we have the right to protest. It's under the right to assembly, and what it reads, and I'm gonna read it verbatim so I don't mess it up. Right of the people peacefully to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. So that's what it says in the First Amendment. And this kind of stemmed from, of course, back in the day when the British had rule over the American colonies. They wanted to be able to have the right to, say to the government, we're not happy with what's going on, and that be protected. And so that's why this was written into law as the First Amendment, because it was a very big deal for them. And that's why it's a big, huge fundamental right in our country. And so it's not an absolute right. Unfortunately, the government does have the ability to put restrictions on your freedom of assembly and freedom of speech while you are assembling, but not really too much, actually. And Showsworth versus Birmingham from 1969, back when, the civil rights movement was going on, they were allowed to have licensing. So you had to get a license to do certain kinds of protests when you're in a public area, right? So it was unconstitutional for them unless it was narrowly defined and objectively applied. So that essentially means that, you can't have big laws that encompass everything, but you do need to have it to be narrowly tailored essentially and be able to be applied objectively in order to have it be a law that someone can actually go by. Because if you're just you can't protest and kind of make it vague, then people don't understand what their rights are, and that kind of inhibits them to be able to Jesus, I lost words today. That makes them hard to be able to actually enact what they're allowed to do, and they can't really decipher what is and is not under law. So, however, they can't deny they can deny a permit if you do get a permit to protest, but they can't deny your permit if it is not for a compelling and objective reason. So, if you apply for a permit for a protest that you're having and they want to deny it, it has to be for a compelling reason. It can't just be because, they don't like what you're protesting for. Because very fortunately for us as citizens, we have the right to protest for about pretty much anything. Even if it's an unpopular opinion, you can protest because you have that right. And they can't just say, oh, we don't like what you're protesting for, so we're not going to give you this permit. However, they need to have a compelling reason. And so under Ward v. Rock Against Racism, which has happened in 1989, one of those reasons can be noise, right? In this case, they wanted to have a concert in Central Park. It was pretty late at night, and it was going to be pretty loud. And so they denied that permit for that to happen because of noise. It was a late night concert that may have been disturbing people in the surrounding areas. And so the Supreme Court held, as long as a restriction of time, place, and matter is content neutral, so essentially it's for everybody, right? It's narrowly tailored, like I said, and it serves a purpose that is, a known interest, so public safety and order, and it is an open and ample alternative for you to exercise your right. So essentially, you can do it some other time, you can do it some other place, and you can do it some other way. So that's what time, place, and manner has. It's yes, you may not be able to have a loud concert benefit at 10 o'clock at night, but you may be able to have one at 2 in the afternoon because, you have the right to. Or you may not be able to have it at this place because there is, maybe a school there, maybe you're going to obstruct traffic, but you can have it here. It's kind of like one of those situations where they can kind of tell you where and when, but not to the point where it's too restrictive, right? So what can you do when you protest? What are you protected under law to be able to do? Well, you can say whatever you want to say, but it's all about the way you say it. So you can't do any serious disruption. You can't, of course, be violent. It's a peaceable protest. You can't incite violence with words either. You can't do libel and slander, which is essentially getting false information about certain people, whether in writing or in words. You can use obscenities, unfortunately. Sometimes you want to. You can't make true threats. So you can say things that have no intent of actually being a threat, but it can't be true threats. Like, you can't just be coming out there and be like, yo, we about to go to this person's house and we gonna kill him. Like, you can't say that during a protest. And you can't incite law breaking. So instructing people to break property, instructing people to damage property, instructing people to do stuff that would be against the law, essentially breaking into places, things like that. And they can't stop you from talking about future events, though. So if you want to overthrow the government one day, let's say you want to use a revolution, let's overthrow the government, they can't stop you from saying that because it's not something you're doing at this time. It has to be an imminent threat of imminent danger or imminent law breaking. So you can say that if that's what you want to do. Always check and see if you need a permit if you want to orchestrate a protest, because in certain areas you probably don't need one, but if you're obstructing traffic, so if you're doing a march in the street, if you are having safety issues and concerns, then that may also require you to need a permit. And they can't stop you from being on a sidewalk, but if you're obstructing or harassing people or causing like civil disobedience, like I said, so blocking traffic, lying on the street, I did see that was happening, things like that, you can end up in jail for that because it's technically against the law. So let's see when the police can get involved. What can compel the police to get involved in a peaceful protest? Because if it's happening peacefully, why should the police be involved? Well, police can't stop a protest unless there is a clear and present danger of riots, disorder, or interference with traffic, and they may not use force or power in a way that has a chilling effect on an ordinary person. Now, I don't know if you've seen videos of these protests that are going on with people being tear gassed in their face, they're having pepper spray to the face, or the fact that they knocked the man down on his feet and they cracked his head open. But a few of us may think that may be a little compelling to a ordinary person. I don't know about you, but to me, I was very much compelled by that. So they can use reasonable force depending on the situation, and unfortunately that gives them the right to kind of decide whether they think that they need to use certain kinds of force, because it usually has to do with a trained officer, what a trained officer believes based on their training, but it's not supposed to be excessive. So for example, rubber bullets. People have been talking about the fact that people have been going blind from having been shot with rubber bullets. They have had shot rubber bullets at close range. They have shot rubber bullets at people in an attempt to cause severe bodily harm to them. And some people, I think most people, I think all people would think that that's a little excessive, especially if it's a peaceful protest. It's a different story, and I don't believe that you should use any type of use of force unless you have. I don't think you should use deadly force unless you are being attacked, but that's a whole video for another day. But in regards to like riots, that would make sense if that was something that you thought would stop it from causing some type of severe harm to a person, or that, the tear gas. Again, if it's peaceful, why do you need to use tear gas? If it's peaceful, why do you need to pepper spray somebody? And in my opinion, if it went from being violent to being peaceful, that's when it should stop. But again, that's just my opinion, and nobody, I guess, asked for that. But anyway, if you are arrested, so let's get into the story of like, okay, we stopped traffic and that was against the law, or we may have, done something like, went back and forth with officers or whatever, what have you. What rights do you have and what should you do if you are arrested? So depends on where you are. Unfortunately, each state have their own ordinances, have their own laws, but for the most part, there's three different kinds of charges. So you can have an infraction. That's pretty much just jaywalking, not yielding to traffic, basic stuff that's not really that important. And 9 times out of 10, if you have your ID, you probably should be fine. They should give you a ticket, and then you sign for the ticket, and that usually is all that happens with that. Unfortunately, if you get a misdemeanor, they can arrest you. Misdemeanors are essentially, disturbing the peace, right? And they can use their discretion when it comes to determining what is disturbing the peace. And so if you get a misdemeanor, they can arrest you, they can fingerprint you, but 9 times out of 10, if you have your ID on you, they will release you and have you to come and appear at a court hearing. And a lot of times it doesn't even get to that point. They just kind of want to put people in jail because they think it'll scare them, or put people in jail to stop the disturbance, and then, we move along. And then if you get a felony, so that's assaulting an officer, vandalism, you can be detained and held. And we know the Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. So stay silent. I would definitely recommend don't say anything. Don't tell them anything. Don't give them any information, because at the end of the day, innocent or guilty, and I say this for anything, not even just protesting, innocent or guilty, shut up. Just don't say anything. We have seen time and time again where you saying anything can be used against you in the court of law, and that's anything. So don't say anything. Second thing, ask for an attorney. If you are being held, and the first thing I would ask is, are you arresting me? If the answer is yes, my next thing I'm saying is I want an attorney, because even though you may not think you did anything wrong, get an attorney, please. Because unfortunately, again, even if you're remaining silent, they can do things behind the scenes that you may not know about, that you may not understand, and then without legal expertise, you won't know exactly what's going on when you do get in court, and then here we are, and everything has gotten worse. And the third thing I would recommend is use your phone call. Call somebody. Let someone know where you are, because apparently there's been a lot of people that have been going missing after being arrested during protests. And here's the thing. A lot of times I've heard stories of people going to jail and they don't give them the phone call. And, if you have the ability to, make sure you ask for that phone call and let somebody know where you are, because we don't want anybody ending up missing because things happened that, lo and behold, somehow you end up dead in a prison cell, or lo and behold, somehow you end up, injured and nobody can figure out why. We want you to call someone. Use that phone call, learn someone's number by heart. I know 2 people's number by heart. One of them is because their number has never changed my whole entire life, and I know their number. And the other person is my mom, because I feel like everybody should know their mom's number by heart. At the end of the day, just be safe, be conscious, stay alert when you're out there in these protests, because even though the stories about protests are dying down, that's kind of a good thing for them, because there's not a lot of eyes on it and they can kind of do whatever they want and feel like no one can do anything about it. Just stay as alert as you can, be as informed as you can. I'm giving you these, I'm trying not to make this video super long, but I'm going to link in the description a bunch of articles that I use, especially from the ACLU. They're a very great help if you want to kind of understand what your rights are as a person who has the right to speak your mind. You have the right to assemble, has the right to be able to speak about what you feel and what you think should be done. And I think protests are very important, and they should not be seen as a bad thing. I think some people see protests as like, oh, these people are out here disturbing the peace, and it's not. It is a very protected, available right you have as an American citizen to go out there and say how you feel. And right now, I think it's very important, and I commend everybody who's out there. Personally, for lots of reasons, I don't feel comfortable being out there doing that, but I do want to help however I can. So give, knowledge and help people out. I'm not a attorney that's very versed in this, but if you want to hit in the comments, if you want me to do a full video, a longer video, maybe speak with somebody who has a little bit more knowledge than me. I am part of different lawyering groups here in Georgia. so I can do that as well. But I wanted to just do kind of a basic video because when I was seeing everything going on, I was just like, this is so not legal. Like these reactions done by police officers, like But get an attorney if you have at this point already been arrested and you've been fingerprinted and you have to appear in court. Get an attorney and speak with somebody who can help you with your in particular case. Because even though I'm giving you this information, I think that regardless, you need an attorney. Like you do. I'm sorry. I know people don't like getting attorneys for certain things, but especially for something like this, you definitely want to get an attorney. So that's all. I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna stop talking. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Tomorrow's video actually is going to be a little personal because I had a video already set up for tomorrow that was related to today's topic, but I feel like for me, I need to talk about what I'm talking about tomorrow. So if you are down for that, come back tomorrow for Say That Saturday. And with that being said, see you then. Bye.